Hi everybody, my name is Krista Loos and I am an outpatient dietitian here at KSB Hospital. And I wanted to talk to you this month for our nutrition topic about kind of what you need to know about fad diets. And so what we're going to overview today are some common fad diets, some red flags to look out for in dieting, and then kind of registered dietitians' recommendations of what to do instead of some of these fad diets. So, kind of diving in with some of the common fad diets. These are ones that we might all be familiar with. So the keto diet or Atkins diet, which is characterized by very minimal carbohydrate intake. Just a quick overview, carbohydrate-rich foods, so lots of our grains, starchy veggies, our fruits have carbohydrates, some of our dairy products, so lots of our food groups have some of those carbohydrates. The carnivore diet has no carbohydrates, really just consuming fat and protein-rich foods in that diet. We have the Whole30 diet, which is no sugar, no grains, no dairy, no legumes, no alcohol, so lots of restrictions there. And then intermittent fasting is time-restricted eating. There's lots of different variations for this. There's also lots of other kind of diets out there. These are just some of the most common ones that I kind of see individuals following. And kind of some reasons like maybe why we wouldn't want to do some of these diets. So the keto diet or Atkins diet, again, minimal carbohydrates. The drawback of that is that carbohydrates are our body's preferred energy source and our brain's primary energy source. So in the keto diet with minimal carbohydrate intake, we're really depriving our body of that energy source that it really wants. There's also something called the keto flu, which can be shown physically by like low energy, brain fog, mood changes, again, really coming from the fact that our brain and our body really rely on glucose or carbohydrates for energy, and we're not giving ourselves that energy source when we're following something like the keto diet. The carnivore diet, again, has no carbohydrates. The keto has a little bit. The carnivore diet has none at all. So really taking away that body's preferred energy source. Within that too, carbohydrates are a really great source of fiber. So we're going to have limited fiber intake, which we know fiber is super beneficial for heart health, digestive health. The carnivore diet's also going to be very limited in the antioxidant content because it's not having some of those really great carb sources. Drawbacks of Whole30 limits and restricts a lot of foods, which can perpetuate the restrict binge cycle. So, we take away something that's really going to heighten our desire for that food, and we're going to fall into this kind of vicious cycle of restricting and then wanting lots of that food in return, and then following by restriction. Limited prebiotic intake, again, we're taking away lots of those whole grains and beans, and some of those like high carb foods. And then intermittent fasting. This one doesn't necessarily have specific food group restrictions, but it really narrows the time frame in which you can eat, which can make it really challenging to meet our nutritional needs. Because if we're, fasting for 16 hours, that really narrows that time that we're awake and able to eat. And so, again, makes it hard to get enough food coming in to meet our nutrition needs. So then some of those physical signs and symptoms of inadequate intake. And so, again, thinking about those fad diets is most of them have some kind of restriction in place, which can make it hard to meet our nutrition needs or have that inadequate intake. And so these are some common signs or symptoms that we might be experiencing that. Digestive changes is a big one, constipation especially, where if we don't have enough of that food or energy coming in, our body doesn't have enough to kind of move things through, so constipation can be common. Low energy or fatigue. Again, food, carbohydrates especially, are our body's preferred energy source. So if we don't have enough of that coming in, we might experience some of that fatigue. Decreased performance in sport or physical activity. As intensity of activity is increasing, we're using more and more glucose or carbohydrates. Increased risk for injury or illness. So when we don't have enough food or energy coming in to support our needs, we're kind of in this area where our body is more apt to be injured, especially in sports. We might feel like, gosh, we're getting sick more and more often. So that's something to look for. Low mood overall too. So again, carbohydrates are our body's main energy source. Also helpful with serotonin production, which helps with kind of supporting our mood. So we might experience changes in mood overall. We might notice changes in our hair growth, maybe even hair loss. And for females, maybe some menstruation changes as well. So all of those physical signs and symptoms potentially of not having enough food coming in. Other reasons that some of those really restrictive diets can be harmful is that restrictive eating can potentially result in an eating disorder. With some of those restrictive diets, we might see very short-term weight changes, and then we might see a rebound or a weight gain potentially with that. And so having that weight cycling or kind of up and down with dieting or weight can lead to negative impacts on our cardiometabolic health. These diets can also kind of perpetuate this weight stigma, which we know can be very harmful for health status overall. It can also create a negative relationship with food in our body, which again can kind of feed into that potential eating disorder area. So what can we kind of do instead? So we really can focus on some of those health behaviors, looking at exercise or movement, making sure that we're having fun there and it's joyful, looking at fruit and veggie intake or whole grain intake, and really thinking about what additions we can make to our diet as opposed to taking things away. Sleep hygiene and stress management. So all of these health behaviors we know can really support our health status. And so that's one thing, kind of taking the focus to these things, as opposed to approaching food and nutrition with taking things away, limiting or restricting. This just creates a much more positive environment because we're talking about additions as opposed to subtractions. That is all that I have today. If there's any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me via email. As always, thank you, KSB Community and Wellness, for hosting these nutrition topics. And then tune in for next month's topic with our other registered dietitian, Jade. Thank you.